Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Bear Bard Tales. I, of course, am the one and only Bear Bard, here today to bring you a dark tale from the even darker crypts of r/RPG horror stories. We have a couple stories today with a bit of an unfortunate theme between them, but very different stories unfolding throughout. If you enjoy content like this, go ahead and give the channel a follow. It helps the channel a ton and helps me justify putting all of my self-worth into subscriber counts. So, please tell me I'm pretty. But with that, let me go ahead and get into our first story here titled, Why I Prefer Online Play. Hi. Now, for my first post on this sub, I'm telling a story which happened 10 to 12 years ago. And sorry for my bad English, as it is not my native language and I haven't actively used it in ages. So, I was playing an RPG that is very famous over here. I was craved for some good role-playing, so I set up an LFG online, and soon was invited. After a bit of back and forth via IM, I was invited to create a character with a DM. I decided I wanted to play a cleric of a thief and merchant god, who is more into the more light-hearted aspects of his patron deity. Then I was at the DM's. One other player was there as well for a pre-session 0. So he asked me, I'm a female and this is important, what I wanted to play. Me. I thought about a cleric, as it sounded as if your group is missing some divine support and Fex's, the name of the god in question, code might fit into your group. DM? Oh, cleric is great, but we might need a Raha cleric more than Fex. Side note, I don't know if it's Raha, Raja, I'm not really sure. Don't tear me apart in the comments, just let me know, I am curious. One of our other players is already good with sneaking and stealing. Well, Raha is a goddess of wine, parties, and figures, sex. I was immediately feeling uncomfortable. Me, a girl of about 18 to 20 years of age, with two strangers somewhere in their apartment. So I simply nodded and answered that I was cool with it. But if I could play a male character instead, the look on the DM's face was incredible. Him, well, I don't see any problems with it, but in hindsight, you can also try that Fex cleric if that suits you better. So I built a male Fex character and left after the character was built and okayed. But as soon as I got home, I wrote him that I'm not interested in that group anymore. I wasn't feeling comfortable with it, though I didn't put it that way, sadly, I was feeling too insecure. One might think this is the end of the story. Wrong. 2 days later, he stood in front of my door with a rose in hand asking me for a date. I panicked and played dead for about 3 weeks, not answering my phone or my IMs. Enough to say that I didn't dare meet up with strangers or play for a long time afterwards. I only got back into role-playing when Skype was widespread, and even now I prefer playing via Roll20 and Discord. Even though by now I have found an awesome group and the best DM in the world. Edit, we met at his apartment. I never shared my address with him. And scene. First I want to say, I absolutely love the character concept. Especially with a cleric who's generally so focused on their deity. It's great to see one that doesn't match up with the clean, oh, angels and sunshine and rainbows and goodness. I think that could be a fun character to play with or around. Now, taking everything else out of account, I think it's just kind of lame to make someone change their deity. Now, if you're trying to run a mostly good campaign and then, all of a sudden someone chooses the god of death and destruction and edgelordiness, okay, fine, I get it. Like, try to push in that direction. But, especially here where it's just like, hey, you want to play the god of sex? Like, come on, bro. Like, you need to chill. Like, and this is one of those dudes, he's like, women don't like me because I'm just such a good guy. It's just like, bro, you need to stop. You're starting at a 12. You need to start at like a 3. You gotta chill there. What I love is the reactions here. She's like, okay, fine, I'll do it, but I'm making him a dude. And then all of a sudden he's just, oh no, I can't have a dude. Why would I do that? What I would have loved to have done, given the opportunity, would be to make just straight up Captain Jack Harkness from Doctor Who and just made him roleplay that all day. Have him hit on freaking everything that moves and make him have to RP, that situation. I think that would have been awesome. But on a more serious note, I'm really glad that you just bounced out of there. You know, the thing is if you're ever feeling uncomfortable with a situation like that, you need to leave, regardless of how much actual danger there is. You know, in a lot of these situations, it's harmless. People are really harmless and there's nothing that's actually going to happen. But if you don't feel comfortable, you need to remove yourself from that situation, or something needs to be removed from that situation so that you are comfortable. You know, if you have that little voice saying, get out, please just listen to it. It may be awkward, you're this, that, or the other, but just do it. You know, maybe something wouldn't have happened, but if something ever did, you know, you don't want to be in that situation. And now for the last thing I'm going to say about this story. Obviously, you know, it's him just showing up. You know, this dude really needs to have a long talk with a nice officer to let him know that that's not okay. Hopefully, obviously, I don't know what country you're from. You know, I really hope that you have resources to turn to in your country and hopefully keep him away from you. You know, obviously, this was a long time ago, but, you know, the statement still stands. Also, I am glad that this technology pushing forward is giving you a chance to get back into the hobby. You know, it's one of those things that it's such a great outlet for so many people that it sucks losing that. So I'm glad that you're able to get back into it. And now for this second story, titled perhaps a bit awkwardly, in which I accidentally made the female players extremely uncomfortable. This isn't nearly as dark as some of the other stories shared on here, really just an unfortunate misunderstanding that was happily resolved, but trigger warning for the usual topics all the same. I was in a campaign between late 2019 and March 2020. Low-level campaign, homebrew reminiscent of Eberron, which, by the way, is a great setting. We were all co-workers and ranged from being friends to at least friendly with each other, so no strangers. The party consisted of myself playing a rapier wielding tiefling bard. As a side note, that was a really, really hard thing to say. A human paladin, a human fighter, a warforged druid, and an Eldarin bard. Our DM, fighter, and I were all veteran players, and the paladin, druid, and other bard were first-timers. The druid and other bard were both women IRL, which is relevant. I'm a guy, which is also relevant. What proceeded over the 5-ish months campaign could easily be described as normal D&D. We bantered, we fought, we negotiated, we RP'd, we led a revolution. We uncovered a conspiracy, all that good-ish. Everybody was happy there was no incidents. I want to be as clear as possible. I, in no way, was playing a problematic bard. No hitting on barmaids, no hitting on other players, no seducing my way into or out of trouble. My character was not sexualized in any way, nor was anybody else's character. We were having good, clean fantasy fun, which I feel like needs to be a tagline for something. I don't really know what, but I feel like that needs to be used somewhere. The issue that prompts me to make this post came up around the 2-month point. We had finally hit level 3 at long last. DM was stingy with XP, and we were able to take subclasses. Having always planned to go for College of Swords, I eagerly made my choice known and traded in my rapier for a pair of scimitars. After that session, the other bard player, privately, awkwardly, thanked me for changing my weapon choice, which confused me. Oh crap. After a series of tactful, back-and-forth questions in search of clarity, I came to the extremely uncomfortable realization that the two newbie female players, eager to learn the game, but with no frame of reference for how things worked and with little background in fantasy, had thought that the sword I was using was called a rapier. They didn't know what a rapier was, and it hadn't occurred to anybody else to explain it to them. For 2 months, 2 women who I was friends with and worked closely with had been putting up with the idea that my fantasy persona was a charismatic musician with a rape sword. Their introduction to D&D consisted of everybody acting like it was normal for one of the players to carry around a rape stick as their primary weapon. I was mortified. Fortunately, this proved to be something that was easily explained, between Google images and references to Princess Bride. I quickly clarified what a rapier was, much to their relief. The party continued and we're still friends. but I'd give a lot to rewind back to the start of the campaign and clarify what weapon I was wielding, because I'm incredibly embarrassed by what they must have thought of me for those 2 months. And scene. So, a bit different here. It's almost wholesome, except for the fact that she was uncomfortable before the weapon change. It's funny because as I was reading this story the first time, I was waiting for that foot to drop on the story when it tells you that, you know, hey, I was a bad guy all along, but then you find out it's just the weapon. I had to laugh a little because when you're into fantasy and all this stuff, you know, we know what a rapier is. But if you're a normal person that has really no need for that kind of knowledge, you know, you wouldn't. And I can totally see this happening. I absolutely know people in my life that would totally do the exact same thing as this. Just sit back thinking that someone has, you know, a freaking rape sword, you know, and it's, you know, you feel bad, but these people, you know, they need our help because this stuff like this happens. And then, you know, you feel awful for making them uncomfortable for so long. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that can be done here to avoid this. All I'll say is that if you're new and you don't know, seriously, don't be afraid to ask. And honestly, if you are afraid to ask and you won't do it, that's okay. Google is your friend. Seriously, I am constantly spending many minutes a day Googling things that I should probably already know but don't, or fact-checking things I do know but I don't trust myself that I actually know. Other than that, just be like OP, apologize, then feel really bad forever. I'm sure once you told her she was fine with it, but I have a feeling the OP here will think about this many times when trying to fall asleep at night. But I think this is where we'll call it for today. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, go ahead and give this video a like. If you want to hear more from this dashing bard of the bear variety, there's a little subscribe button there just waiting for you to show it some love. Just don't roll a 1 when clicking, otherwise you'll end up like Dave. Poor Dave. If you have any thoughts on the stories here, or things you want to see on this channel, go ahead and comment them below. If you want to join the community, or have your story read on here, you can join the subreddit or the Discord. Links for both are linked below. Thank you again for listening to this old bard's tale. This has been the Bear Bard, and I'll see you next time on the Bear Bard Tales.